Hey there, this is Dara Connolly, your fearless confidence coach. And in this video, I want to teach you how to handle difficult person. Let's do it. Right, so let's jump right in, because when you're dealing with a difficult person, whether it's a family member, a coworker, a neighbor, or a stranger, you are going to want to diffuse the conflict as soon as possible. This way it doesn't escalate. This is important because this is how people kind of get into one of these where they try to up the other person, and before you know it, it's a heated exchange, maybe even gets physical and violent. So we have to diffuse the conflict. So there's several ways to do that. You can simply turn and walk away. You can ignore the person. You know, I remember several years ago when my kids were little, I drove to my friend's house to pick my son up from a play date. And I saw the neighbor in an argument with my friend's dad. It was very awkward. They were in the middle of the street shouting at each other, profanity. And these were little kids that were at this house. It was very uncomfortable. And so what was happening was both dads didn't want to back down. I don't know what they were arguing over, basketball court, too much noise the kids were making, something ridiculous like that. And they were shouting over, you know, who's the bigger man here? And it became one of these scenes where I quickly wanted to get my kid out of there, and I did. But what I noticed was that neither dad wanted to back down, because they thought they could win this. They could win the fight by shouting louder, by puffing their chest more, by being the bigger man in the scene. It doesn't work out that way. There's no win, right? There's no win or lose. It just both look like losers to me. Whatever their situation was or whatever they were arguing about, they could have talked respectfully to each other. They could have handled that much more maturely. So I challenge you, when you're around a difficult person and your blood is boiling, they said something that really gets under your skin and you're peeved, you've had enough. They've done this way too many times. I get it. It's easy to lash out or to give that quick comeback that you've thought of, or to give them a zinger. I know it's so tempting to do, and it feels good to do it. It really does. But let's be mature and diffuse it as soon as possible. Somebody's arguing with you, they're not going to listen to a word you're saying anyway. So there's no point in trying to engage or talk to them at that moment. It's best to walk away and say, I'll talk to you when you calm down, or let's talk about this later. Quickly diffuse it. Now, maybe you're in a situation where it's like a road rage, where somebody's giving you the finger and they're going off screaming at you in your car. Well, you could speed up and go after them and try to cut them off and give them the finger back. Or you can simply ignore it, take a deep breath, and let that person go on with their day, because obviously they're struggling right now. Why get your blood pressure up? Why get you so upset and risk getting in an accident or hurting somebody else just to get revenge of a stranger you don't even know? It's not worth it. So in some cases, we diffuse it by ignoring it. Now, I want to give you some tools today of how to stay engaged, because walking away, ignoring it, those are tools that you probably have heard before, and you can do that. Whether or not you choose to is a different story. But sometimes we're in a scene where it's maybe a family member and we're at a dinner and you can't just get up and walk away. Or you're at work and you're being challenged by a coworker who's being inappropriate, and you really can't leave that job. So you have to stay engaged. So let's talk about handle a difficult person while you're in it, because this is a really tricky situation. So one of the ways that you can diffuse it when you can't walk away or ignore them is by turning the tables and asking them questions. Let's say you're at a family function and you know Uncle so-and-so's there and he's going to argue with you about politics because that's what he does. And he's going off and shooting his mouth off, and you really are tired of it and you want to stick it to him, but you're going to be mature. So it's a way to handle it is to quickly divert the conversation by asking them questions. That's interesting. Can you tell me more about that? Wow, I'd love to know how you feel. Where'd you hear that? We're not agreeing with them. We're simply asking questions. What'll happen is the other person will be in a little bit of disbelief because you're not taking the bait to argue and be combative, right? So it gives you control. You are giving them a chance to state their opinion, and what you're doing is not agreeing with it. You're letting them know that I'm taking a different perspective here, because you're not jumping on their bait. You're going to be the one who's holding the power of the conversation by asking questions. Whoever asks the questions is in control. So it gives you a way to be in charge without the other person catching on. Now, there's rules to what questions are appropriate to ask. So you want to keep the questions general and neutral, not insulting, not, why do you think that? That is so stupid. Are you kidding me? You don't really believe that, do you? Not that type of question. General questions that are neutral. I never heard that before. Where'd you hear that? So how can you handle your next difficult person by asking questions? So let's go a little bit further with this. I know a lot of people have situations that come up, especially with the current political climate, where there's people that disagree with you. You could be in a work setting and you're frustrated because some people have a different opposing belief than you. And you don't want to agree, but you want to engage. So instead of saying, that's ridiculous, that's an insult, or that makes no sense whatsoever, that's just going to heat up the argument and get the person more upset. So what I want you to say is, can you tell me more about that? I'm trying to understand. See, this is a really powerful way to stay engaged with the other person without creating more conflict. Now notice, it's not snarky in how you say it. You're being sincere, like you really want to know where they're coming from. You're trying to understand their point of view, as whacked as it is, but you say it respectfully. Now, I know there's a lot that we can do. It's so easy to go with the snark. It's okay to have that in your head. Like, how can you be so stupid to believe this? You just keep those comments to yourself. Or where did you hear that bullshit? Keep it to yourself and come back to thinking of what is the most friendly and curious question I can ask in this moment. Another curious, piquing question would be, interesting, how did you come to believe that? And you, again, are coming across with sincerity because you want to know, you want to understand. Just watch for those tones, because I know it's easy to be snarky. When we ask questions like this, it helps us stay calm and in control of the situation, and it diffuses the tension so the other person isn't feeling threatened and you feel more relaxed, because like I said, it's not worth getting upset over conversation. So give it a try and let me know how it goes. You can post a comment below. And now that I've taught you a little bit more of how to handle difficult people by asking the right questions, you're going to want to watch my next video, which is how to have confident body language. So in the meantime, you're going to want to click below for the DaraConnollyCLUB so you can get in my exclusive club and see content that hasn't been shared anywhere else. And until then, you are amazing.